welcome in everyone to another episode of the Owls Perch podcast. We're joined today by Emily Spiegel. She's a 2018 alum and a former member of the Bryn Mawr rowing program. How are you doing today, Emily?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Travis.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for joining us. You reached out a couple days ago with a really cool article you've written recently, and we're going to kind of get to that eventually. But I wanted to give you kind of a chance to introduce yourself back to maybe some of the Owls who don't remember you, or who some of the newer Owls who are here who don't know who you are. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and your time at Bryn Mawr and what you did while you were here?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you mentioned, I graduated in 2018. I was a bio major, and I thesised in the lab of Greg Davis in aphid polyphenism. And I was on the Bryn Mawr crew team all 4 years. I was a recruit from my high school program, and eventually went on to be co-captain my senior year, and have just so many great memories from that program and from my.
That's awesome. You talk about some of your great memories. What do you have, like a favorite memory that you like to kind of pull back to when you think about your time here at Bryn Mawr rowing?
I have a lot for sure. I think one that I think about a lot is our Head of the Charles race in 2016, where we came in top 10 after just an absolutely grueling race. And one of the reasons I think about it is just because I loved that boat so much, and it was, it was a record-breaking year for us. And it was just a fantastic race after such hard conditions. But I also think about it a lot because my current office in Boston, I've got a bird's eye view over the section of the river that we did that race on. So I think about.
That's amazing. You get to like reflect back on that every day at work, I guess, when you're in the office these days. That's pretty cool. So you talk about where you're working up in Boston. What are you doing these days?
So I have been working with Accenture since I graduated in life science strategy consulting. So I work with different life sciences clients across the country in terms of drug development strategy and trying to get therapies to patients in a more meaningful way, more efficiently, faster. So it's been a fantastic job, and I've really appreciated all of the opportunities and all the learning I've done.
Sounds really amazing. How has your job been impacted by COVID and the pandemic? Has it really changed how it's looked and felt for you?
It definitely has. In my first couple of years in consulting, I was traveling around the country pretty much every week for several days out of the week. And that was a big part of my job, was going to my clients and talking with them in person about their problems and working through solutions with them. So when we went virtual, I had actually just come back from a couple different conferences around the country and kind of parked my seat, and suddenly we were virtual and suddenly had to kind of relearn how to interact with my clients and deal with issues. But I would say I think we've done it fairly seamlessly. We've had a lot of great tech helping us do that. And we've actually been at the forefront for a lot of our clients and helping them think about how they go virtual, and how, for instance, in life sciences, they can help deploy digital engagement tools that help physicians work with their patients in a more meaningful way during this pandemic.
That sounds pretty amazing. It sounds like you've been really providing a pretty important piece of technology or piece of the pie to helping everyone kind of survive this digital landscape that we're in these days. That's really cool. What, besides doing all these amazing things with Accenture, what are some of the hobbies that you're into these days? I know you and I talked about this a little over email. Why don't you tell people what some of the things you're into these days are?
Well, I've actually gotten pretty into rock climbing. Which is really cool. I didn't do it a lot in college because I avoided a lot of things that might lead to injury, but I've really enjoyed it now that I'm not on the crew team. So I've been doing that. I've been expanding my yoga practice, which I started doing in college with Courtney Morris, who obviously everybody loves a lot. And then in addition to that, I love baking and cooking. Like a lot of people, I've used the extra time to explore new recipes and kind of get into that more. And then, of course, I live in Boston. So even during the pandemic, there's so many beautiful places to go and walk outside. So I have been enjoying the city more and more since I've been able to spend more time in it.
Great. So I'm going to ask you two kind of rapid fire questions real quick before we move on. You said you've gotten really into cooking and new recipes and stuff. What's one of your favorite new dishes? And then what is, a lot of people have been doing a lot of binge watching of movies and films and TV shows these days. What's one thing that you can recommend to people that you've binged over the past 9 months or so?
So one of the recent recipes I learned how to make a Pavlova, which is essentially a meringue with whipped cream. And I absolutely loved it. It's really fun to make, but it's even more fun to eat. So really recommend that. And then something to binge watch, The Crown. It's been out for a while, but if you haven't seen the latest season, go watch it. It's phenomenal.
That sounds great. I have not seen that, so I'm going to check that out. And that Pavlova sounds pretty amazing. My mouth is watering right now, so I'm going to have to see if I can find one of those too. Moving on to your time with Row 360, we've kind of featured in one of your first articles for this magazine, this publication, way back when you first got started with writing and doing this kind of journalism thing. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in writing for Row 360?
Yeah, absolutely. That was such a amazing thing I got to do in college. So I was in anatomy and physiology 300 with Peter Broadfuhrer in the bio department, and we were doing a long lab, so it was several weeks in exercise physiology. And I approached Peter and I asked him, can I do a study on myself rowing a 2K on an erg, on an indoor rowing machine. And I worked with him to design the study. And then I took the results of that and kind of wrote an essentially a narrative write-up of what my body goes through in a 2K, and kind of generalizing that to others and talking throughout the 2,000 meter race, what your body experiences and the challenges and how it overcomes that. And then I reached out to the editor at Row 360, Ben Tufnell, and I had really loved that magazine, and we were able to work together to publish it. It got great feedback, good reviews, and he actually asked me to join their team of contributing editors. So that was back in 2017, and I've been writing for them ever since then. So have been able to explore so many different topics in rowing, physiology, psychology, and more. So it's been just
That's really awesome. I really clearly remember that article. I have a very basic understanding of anatomy and physiology, and it was still really incredible to read about. I thought it was really amazing how you kind of put words to your rowing experiences. It was pretty awesome. So what have you enjoyed about getting to kind of be a journalist on the side like this?
Definitely just the time and capacity to dig into topics that are so interesting, and really dig into how rowers are impacted by things like stress or eating disorders, or motivational psychology or hydration, and digging into a problem and writing about it in a meaningful, accessible way. And then also, doing things like meeting Debbie Stone at the head of the Charles. And I was actually supposed to go to the Henley last summer and do some coverage, which unfortunately got canceled. But things like that are just fantastic opportunities. I get to talk with other people in the rowing community. And it's just a fantastic opportunity to expand my perspective and my interaction with a community that I love so much.
Do you have, what's one of your favorite articles that you have had the chance to write so far in your time there?
Oh gosh, they're all my favorite for different reasons. I guess one that immediately comes to mind, I did an article on eating disorders within the rowing community, which is a vastly underexplored topic. Not enough people have thought about it or realize how big of an issue it is in the community. And so that article was very meaningful for me because I wanted to bring more attention to it and explore ways that coaches and teams can confront the issue head on and help prevent, you know, folks from their team feeling pressured to explore disordered eating or extreme weight loss. Everybody belongs in this sport, every shape, size.
No,
It's
okay.
important we make sure that everybody feels they belong in this community, every shape and size, everybody belongs in.
Perfect. Yeah, that's absolutely great message. Another really recent article that you did for the publication is an interview with another Bryn Mawr rowing alum, Jenny Sitchell, an alum from 2010, who has gone on to continue her rowing career beyond Bryn Mawr. She won numerous medals across different competitions, including a silver at the 2016 Paralympic Games. How did you get connected with her and come up with the idea to do an interview with her?
I got connected with Jenny because everybody who's passed through the Bryn Mawr rowing team, I think, kind of knows her and has at least some amount of idolization of her. You know, knowing that she went to the Olympics, knowing that she's such a prominent and respected figure in the community, coming from our program, I mean, it's a real source of pride. So I actually met her a couple times while I was still in college in the program, and then continued. I was able to meet her in other ways outside of college when I graduated. She's also up in the New England area. And, you know, I was talking with my editor about doing some focus pieces in the US, and it just seemed like such a natural fit. She's such an inspiration to me, but to so many others in the community. Her work with the Paralympics is so important. Again, getting back to that idea of making the community more accessible. She is doing so much for that. And she's also pushed herself beyond what most people kind of expect for a D3 athlete. And she's really helping pave the way for more D3 athletes in the community to be respected and to advance further. So it was just the honor of a lifetime to be able to talk with.
Yeah, for sure. The saying out there goes, you never meet your heroes, right? But I don't necessarily agree with that at all. What was it like getting a chance to do that interview and getting to know someone who's such kind of a role model for the Bryn Mawr rowing program?
It was really cool. That was the best way to put it, but it was great in that I got to talk with her about many different aspects about her career, how she kind of got started in the broader competitive world while she was still at Bryn Mawr, and then afterwards got to talk with her about kind of the challenges she's faced. I have actually been in a boat that she was coxing, the one guiding the boat, and her skill was so phenomenal. It stood out so much to me, and I got to talk to her about that and how she built that kind of skill over her career. So we got to nerd out a lot about a lot of rowing.
That's so awesome. I'm so happy for you that you got to do that. If you can kind of pick, I don't want you to have to kind of spoil the whole article. I want people to be able to go out and check this out for themselves. But if you can kind of pick out what's one kind of nugget that sticks out from you or that you think would kind of be interesting to share here.
I think one that stands out is at one point we were talking and I was asking her, you know, how do you think within the rowing community you are perceived both as a former D3 athlete, but also as somebody who works on the Paralympic team? And she made a comment. She said, when I was starting and exploring the idea of joining the Paralympic team, somebody said to me, you know, Jenny, you're not going to get on the Olympic team by getting on the Paralympic team. And that really stuck with me because she used that as kind of fuel to move forward. And she said, as I was talking with her and she, you know, told me about that experience, she was like, my immediate response was, I don't want to be an Olympian. I want to be a Paralympian. She wanted to work with that team. That's where she sees her niche and her fit and her people and just the work she's been able to do with that community, both in representing them and working with those athletes is just great. And it's striking to me how she's been able to help improve the representation of that community and help improve its reputation within the broader rowing community.
It sounds like that was a really incredible interview. I'm excited to check it out some more myself. I wanted to kind of close out and give you a chance to kind of tell people a little bit about what's on tap for you in the near future. It can be, you know, career-wise, or any interesting ideas in mind for an upcoming article that you're working on or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one exciting bit kind of going with the Row 360 aspect is we recently announced a new partnership with US Rowing, which is the national rowing organization that organizes all the teams and competitions, etc. So we are their new partner in journalism. So all US Rowing Champ members get a free digital access to the magazine, and we're going to explore a lot more with the US. Row 360 is an international journal, so we'll explore more with the US. And to that point, actually, my most recent article with them, which just came out, is around the issue of inclusion and diversity in the US rowing community, and the massive issues in equity and access that the US rowing community is still facing, particularly for people of color, and really digging into that and getting back to that point that I think we've mentioned a few times. This community is for everybody, everybody belongs. So trying to explore that topic more.
Absolutely, 100%. Emily, how can people follow your work, or you know, kind of follow you? Shout out the ways that you think you'd like people to be able to kind of follow what you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a digital app if you want to access it, called Row 360. You just look in the App Store and you can download that and use that to access our digital archive. If you're a US Rowing Champ member, again, you now have free access. You can also go on our website. A few of my articles are up on that website. You just Google Row 360, it'll come up. And then, as always, with all alums and current students, especially athletes, please feel free to reach out if you ever want to chat. I'm always eager to talk to people, especially from our athletic.
For sure. Thank you for being so involved as an alum, and being willing to talk to us and share your story with us and come back so much. We really love how connected you are with the department, even a couple years out from your graduation. So thank you so much for your time, Emily. It's been great to catch up with you, and I can't wait to kind of see you back on campus again, whenever that day might be.
Sounds good. Great to talk with you as well. Stay healthy and safe.
You too. Thanks, Emily.